Hello everyone, this is Marvel Champions Deck Discussions, or MC Deck Discussions, and I am Abi Small, but you can call me Abis. Our primary focus of this channel is to discuss Marvel Champions decks. I have something very different for you today though, so this is a little different than the expectations from before. So go ahead and take a look at what we have here. Notice it says this is Deadpool because I'm using Marvel CDB as a resource for this, and I wanted somewhere to house the deck. However, this is not meant to represent a Deadpool deck. This is meant to represent a Daredevil hero deck. And at this point, we don't currently have a Daredevil hero, so you might be wondering, how is that possible? Of course, by the time you're watching this, maybe we do have a Daredevil hero, but that wasn't the case when I recorded this. So let's see what this is all about. So if we look at this deck, the cards that are added to the deck are the aggression cards and the basic cards, but of course these identity-specific cards listed for Deadpool are not part of the deck. So instead, I have that listed over here in the description, but let me describe what I was allowed to do based on these rules that were created by another content provider. So Solo Marvel Champion created a set of rules so that you could turn any ally into a hero to then play. Of course, it's not any kind of official rule or anything. It's just to have fun, trying to take an ally that you like, who currently doesn't have a hero, and make a deck that you can have some fun playing. So I decided to go ahead and try this, and I chose to use the same ally that Solo Marvel Champion used, though I used a different base deck. So here are some of those rules. You can see all of his rules in detail by going to his YouTube channel, and he has in his description, he has links that will go to the handouts that give even more details for it. So let me go ahead and scroll down so we can get to some of what was required. So the first thing is that the deck had to be created out of the same cards as the ally himself. So in this case, Daredevil is a Justice ally, so his identity cards had to be created with Justice cards. So then I could use those to create the deck. So here is the actual identity-specific deck that I created, and I had to tweak it a lot because this deck was not competitive. I lost quite a bit. And I had to keep tweaking it until it could become a pretty decently powerful deck at the end. So if we look here, we have one ally, and you're only allowed to have one ally, and that's Jessica Jones in this case. So Jessica Jones, as we can see featured here, she gets +1 thwart for each side scheme in play, and she's a defender. And this, for those who don't know, the ally for Daredevil is also a defender, so it fits thematically. Oh, I should probably show off, to begin with, actually, Daredevil. So let's go to that card. All right, so here we have Daredevil, and you can see that he has a cost of 4, which we now ignore since he's a hero. He has health of 3. We also ignore that. There are rules built into the game, and so any hero built this way will have the same number of hit points, which was 11. He still maintains his 2 attack and his 2 thwart, and he still retains his ability. After Daredevil thwarts, deal 1 damage to an enemy. Now, the way I interpreted that was that this is now a hero response because he's a hero. So after Daredevil thwarts, deal 1 damage to an enemy. That means his identity-specific cards, when he thwarts with those, that also deals 1 damage to an enemy. And this is where I thought maybe this is going to be a super overpowered hero, because even a hero like Gamora only allows that to occur once per phase, and I decided to try it without doing that, and it turned out just to eventually be a competitive deck, but it was not overly powerful, probably because the identity specific cards in most decks generally tend to be more powerful than, say, the cards in an aspect like Justice. Plus, I did try to fit into the theme of Daredevil in some regards with regard to the cards that I picked as much as possible. All right, so let's look at some of these, the rest of the cards here. So we had Jessica Jones for the one ally. Then for the events, I ended up putting 3 clear the area, 3 for justice, 2 multitasking, and 2 turn the tide. So the theme I was going for was that this is, as Daredevil, he's going in there and he's thwarting things by beating up lots of enemies. He doesn't have, real superpower strength or anything like that. So he's doing these little bits of, clearing the area, removing threat, and then doing damage to his enemies while he's doing it. So hence he clears the area and does, boom, 1 damage to an enemy. Does for justice, does boom, 1 damage to an enemy. So for me, that felt thematic. It's not nearly as thematic as the deck that was built by, who was that? Let me go up here again, by Solo Marvel Champion. His deck was highly thematic. If you look at all the pictures of his cards, the vast majority of them had Daredevil in the pictures. It's really cool. I highly recommend checking that out as far as the theme is concerned. But for me, turning to the theme of what I thought Daredevil should be doing, this felt more thematic and was the only way I felt like I could make it competitive, playing against Standard and Expert against this set of villains that I typically go against. I had to have no supports in it, and then I have 4 upgrades. So that included Chance Encounter, which when an attached side scheme is defeated, search your deck and discard pile for an ally and add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. I chose Skilled Investigator so that as side schemes were defeated, you get to draw a card. Under Surveillance, which can increase the threat value of the main scheme so that you don't have the main scheme doesn't get completed by the villain as quickly, and Sense of Justice in order to pay for all of those justice cards, because there are quite a few. We have 3, 6, 7, 8 of those justice cards. In addition, had an obligation, and I chose one of the obligations that, again, that Solo Marvel Champion had suggested, which was legal work, since She-Hulk is also an attorney. So we figured that was a good fit. And then the Nemesis suggested here was, let's see, who was that? The Mr. Hyde Nemesis set from the Hood Scenario pack. And that one was just too brutal. I kept getting this Nemesis out, and the combination of that Nemesis plus the other, I was suffering quite a bit. So I chose another option that wasn't as brutal, but still challenging, and that's 6 cards from the Crossfire Crew Nemesis set. And I justified that because I found the following with a search. As the second Mr. Fear, Saxon humiliated Daredevil in televised battles, casting himself as the hero in a series of charity-funding battles against the superhero. In the final battle with Daredevil, Saxon was unmasked and plunged to his death. So I have some way of selecting him to be, some reason for selecting him as the main Nemesis villain. And then from there, then I have aggression deck notes. So now I'll go ahead and share the deck. I'm not going to spend as much time on the deck here. I'm just going to give a quick overview of it. So this will be shorter than I normally do, because really I just wanted to show off this idea that I thought was really cool and it was fun to do. And it's something that I might come back to here and there periodically for myself. Not necessarily to share more decks, but I just wanted to introduce this idea to others because I thought that Solo Marvel Champion had just a really neat idea to do something a little different in case, we have a lot of materials available, but sometimes it's nice to try something different. So in this deck, we have our 7 allies. So of course, the original ally is Jessica Jones, and then I have added to that Nick Fury, Psylocke, Spider-Girl, Sunfire, Thor, and Valkyrie. And then for the events that I added to it, we have 3 copies of Clobber for some attack damage, 2 full body charges for some major attack damage, and a couple of 1x1s. So together, this is an event-heavy hero with this deck. So a whole lot of events, from attack events here and a whole lot of justice events, which made it, in my opinion, a very fun deck because I played this, it played very differently than anything I've ever played. And I have quite a few player side schemes involved, so build support, specialized training and superpower training, and then keep up the pressure for an attack one to be able to search for one of the attack events and add it to my hand. And then resources wise, the typical energy, genius, and strength. And then I added 2 power of aggression because we have plenty of targets for that with these allies here, as well as quite a few events and even martial prowess that I added to it, which I might as well go to the upgrade. So the one upgrade I added is martial prowess. So you can generate a resource, a physical resource for an attack event to help these attack events fire off. In addition, we have a couple of supports, both Helicarrier and Quinn Carrier. Quinn Carrier can only be played if you're an Avenger, but that's why Build Support is in here. That's specifically so that Quinn Carrier can be brought into play, and Helicarrier can just be played anyway. So to go to a few notes then for the actual deck, so some of the strategies used. So use Hero Thwarts just constantly, both from the events in his now, Justice identity specific event and from his own thwarting, because it is pretty cool that even from his own thwarting, he gets to do some damage. So it shows to take advantage of that to constantly be doing damage, but it also, that regular thwarting setup, Turn the Tide, which after your hero thwarts and removes all threat from a scheme, you deal 3 damage to an enemy. And so including those at 0 cost meant being able to do quick points of damage for quick damage for 3 more points apiece. And then the other strategy was wipe the board and then attack aggressively. So once you get 3 or 4 of your kit together, so you Quinn Carrier, Helicarrier, Sense of Justice, and Martial Prowess. So pretty cool having both of those in the same deck. So that was actually really neat to be able to do that, since normally you can't do that. So being able to pay for your Justice events with Sense of Justice and your attack events with Martial Prowess, that was a lot of fun. But getting 3 or 4 of those out and then just going for it and destroying the villain. And you can see Sorrel Marvel Champion here commenting on the deck. So once again, just wanted to share that and this idea, share something very different, and it's not something that I would normally do, but I hope you enjoy this.